And let me do this much. Good to see everyone. And I'm going to go to the screen share. And here we are. Let's do it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So, so Abraham has made his servant swear to him, and that he is going to go to Ur Kasdim or to Haran rather, and find a wife for Isaac. And if she does not want to go and come back to the land of Canaan, then he is under no circumstances to take Isaac there. Isaac is to remain in the land of Canaan. And we see that, in fact, Isaac does do that. And the reason why is because of the Akedah. He's now considered an Olat Mima, a perfect offering. So now we have the servant fulfilling the wishes of his master. Vayikach ha'eved, and the servant took asara gemalim, 10 camels, mi gemale Adonav, from the camels of his master. Vayelech, and he went. V'chol tuv Adonav biyado, and all the goodness, literally, of his master in his hand. So, whether that we could speculate that that means he has had a lot of paper with him when he went. Vayakom vayelech, he arose and went el Aram Naharaim, to Aram Naharaim, Aram of the two rivers, Mesopotamia, El Ir Nahor, to the city of Nahor. And we'll see if there's any Rashi on this. Yes. Migamale Adonai, from the camels of his master. And what is the significance of mentioning this? That it, just could have said he took 10 camels. You wouldn't have assumed he took camels from anywhere else. So why does the Torah have to specify that it was his master's camels? And this is from Bereshit Rabbah. Nikarin Hayu, these camels were recognizable, Misha'ar Gemalim, from other camels, Shahayu Yotzim Zemumim, because they would go out with muzzles, Mipnei Hagezel, on account of theft, Shelo Yiru, that they should not graze Besadot Acherim, in other people's fields. Respect.
So that the camels shouldn't steal.
Correct. That the camels shouldn't graze in other people's fields and take obviously grain or fodder or anything from other people's fields. Yep. So respect for other people's property to that degree is something that's like a principle of what it means to be a disciple of Abraham or a descendant of Abraham.
Like going out in a mask.
Yes, good point. Because the mosque maybe protects you less than it protects others. Yeah. But the camels went out in a mosque, so you were looking at the image, right?
Both, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, both.
Right.
Both the visual parallel and the
Right.
protection of others, yeah.
So we did have this little phrase, V'chol tuv Adonav biyado, and all the goodness, wealth of his master in his hands. So here we go, Bereshit Rabbah, Shtar Matana Katav LeYitzchak. He had written a document, basically a contract, right? A gift contract he had written to Isaac. In other words, that Isaac was to inherit his property, to have control of his property. Al kol asher lo, regarding everything which he had. Kedei sheyikpatzu lishloach lo vitam, so that the fathers, the families would jump at the chance to send to him their daughters. So they would have evidence of marrying well. It's sort of an interesting note, right? An interesting subtlety of the text. He's going to a strange place. What might motivate somebody to uh, do what he's asking? So clearly, if he shows them documentation, signed documentation that these possessions are his are Isaac's, there's a better chance of success. So there's a sort of element there of being practical as well.
But
Aram, you go ahead.
I thought he wanted Isaac to marry, not to marry a stranger.
He did, correct, but he didn't want to take any chance of the family member not coming to. Remember, it's somewhat distant family, and they haven't seen each other for how long, and he has to take it all on faith, I assume. I do not know. There's no mention of communication on any other level between the two families. But I mean, the truth is they're going to see that whoever, that if whoever's going to marry Isaac, you could say married well. So it's a motivation. But where I'm coming from more is the fact that they aren't just relying on miracles for the success of this particular venture. They're being practical as well. And I think that's the lovely idea of balancing faith with practical, uh, action.
Considerations.
Yeah, right. So Aram Naharayim, Aram of the two rivers, Bain Shtein Naharot Yoshevet. It is situated, Yoshevet, it's situated between two rivers. So we know that the ayim ending is a dual ending.
And here it specifies Tigris and Euphrates, and
Yes.
that it's in Mesopotamia.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. But here it just simply says between two rivers. I'm sure that that's what it meant. I don't know how many other rivers and tributaries there are there, but at least that worked that way. Here goes verse 11. You're right, Jocelyn. We got to it very quickly, didn't we? Vayavrech hagmalim, and he caused the camels to kneel michutz la'ir, outside the city, el be'er hamayim, near the water well. The eight erev, at the time of evening, the eight tzeit hashuavot, at the time when the drawers, female, the women who drew water, go out. You know that it was really good. I remember watching the Abba Eben series on civilization and the Jews. It's a very fine history of the Jewish people. And he makes the point that civilization, literally, of course, means something to the effect of the culture of cities or living in cities, city dwelling, was only made possible by the harnessing of water power, of having a steady supply, a steady water supply. And that's what made city life possible. And until I heard him say that, it never really occurred to me. So, we take indoor plumbing for granted, but my heavens, that it's in itself, it gave people time to develop other interests so that we go beyond, what can I say, food, clothing and shelter, how life goes well beyond that. At any rate, so the time of the women who go out to draw water. And here we have a very unusual, a rare trope note. You see this little squiggly lines here. That is a shalshelet, which means a chain, literally. And it indicates pause, doubt, something like that. That
Well, there's,
lack of certainty.
I mean, there's one Rashi for 11, but it just retranslates. He made them kneel, so I don't get it.
It's okay. Well, we'll take a look at it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, right. So it's just that I think Rashi's just helped. Remember, we don't necessarily have lots of translations of this material, And so Rashi's trying to help us understand the Hebrew and whether it means something else between. So there are other possibilities, perhaps, of the word vayavrech, and ravatz, the verb resh beit tzaddik, means to couch as an animal or crouch. So he made them crouch, is what he's saying, and he's translating. It's you don't come across this very much. So we just had a shalshelet actually in the previous sedra where Lot was hesitating. So there's this sort of it's a hesitation. It indicates that so this is a trope note that without any question is an interpretive trope note and suggests hesitation because of uncertainty. In other
Well,
words, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it?
are there not times that it suggests deliberateness, like slowing down because you're relishing what you're doing, or being deliberate, but not because of uncertainty? Just like taking your time, but not necessarily just to figure it out, but maybe because it's something you feel you want to enjoy, or for other reason take some time with it.
So the only examples that I can think of, and I understand there may be 4 examples in the Torah, and I can think of 3 of them, they all indicate hesitation on account of uncertainty. So, for example, when it talks about Lot hesitating to leave the city of Sodom, it's because he's not sure. Should he do it? Shouldn't he do it? Not because he's enjoying what he's going through. And
Yeah,
this
and
example,
Joseph.
that's right. And here, that's so incredible. In other words, Joseph was really tempted. He didn't know if he should, in fact, lie with Potiphar's wife. He hesitated for a moment,
He
struggling.
actually considered it.
So maybe inner struggle, some kind of inner struggle, you might put it that way. So this tells us, because what follows is he says a prayer. He prays and he says, Hashem Elokei Adoni Avraham. So, Lord God of my master Abraham. Hakrena lefana hayom means, I think it means sort of to be present, please, before me today. In other words, like, let me let me have a special sense of your presence. Va'aseh chesed, and perform an act of love, im Adoni Avraham, with my master Abraham. So obviously, I don't think there's a Rashi on this. Onwards.
No.
The Hebrew is quite beautiful, by the way. I mean, need I tell you that the biblical Hebrew is pretty magnificent. Hine, behold, Anochi I nitzav al ein hamayim. I am standing by the water well, the well of water. Uvnot, and the daughters Anshe Ha'ir of the people of the town, the men of the town, Yotzot, go out, coming out, Lishov Mayim, to draw water. Okay. Vahaya Hana'ara, and let it be that the young maiden, Asher Omer Eleha, to whom I will say, Hati na kadech, put down or place down your, bend down your jug, so that I can drink. The Amra Shate, and that she say to me, drink. The Gam Gamalecha Ashke, and I will water your camels as well. Ota, she, Hochapta la'avdacha liyitzchak, you have proved to be the one for your servant, for Isaac. Uva eda, and through this I will know, ki asita chesed, that you have performed an act of love, im Adoni, I'm sure is the next word, with my master. So there are issues going on here. Why did he hesitate? Well, I mean, I think you can see yourselves from a pshat level that what he was asking was an interesting question as to whether, in fact, he would find such a person. But perhaps another reason for hesitation is that asking God for these kinds of signs is not It's not hoil. It's not considered a really wonderful thing to do. You don't test God. There's a sense of testing God here, and you don't do it. So that could have been another reason why he hesitated. So, ata hochachta, you have given proof. Re'uyahi, she is fitting, law for him. Shetahe gomelet chasadim, because she is a one who performs acts of loving kindness. Ukidai likanes, and she is worthy of entering the Veitor shel Avraham, into the home of Abraham. The lashon hochachta, okay, and the language, in other words, this term hochachta, birirat, is a clarification. Lohochiach means to clarify, and the French word comes from approviste. It looks like approviste.
It it says in here approuvé,
Okay.
VEST.
Yeah, it's difficult to always be able to, get
Right.
the French word from the Hebrew the way they spelt it.
But they make it look like it means approved.
Of course, of course. So here we go. Here's the Yiddish. Du hast beschieden, something like that. Yeah. So du means you, hast have, so must be proved. I'd have to look up the German. That much German I don't know,
And
or
here it
Yiddish.
says you've selected.
Okay, I'll accept that as what that means.
But they also say it's English and it's obviously Yiddish, so who knows if the
Well,
translation.
yeah, but I'm comfortable with that because remember, Rashi's basically saying it's a clarification, is what it is. So to
Yeah.
select something obviously is to choose to clarify that is the one.
Well,
Uva,
maybe part of Abraham's hesitation was that Isaac was such a miraculous gift to
yes.
him. It was not, normal for people that age to have a new baby, and it was a miracle that was given to him. And maybe he feels he'll be kind of taken for granted that he's, I mean, that he's asking for more when he's already been given so much, that he doesn't just want the child, but he wants the perfect woman for him. And maybe he feels that, he shouldn't ask, but he needs to.
Uh-huh. Um, Yeah, I think my sense of this though is it has more to do with that he wants to make sure, because Abraham has asked him to on a mission. He's asked him to get the right wife, and the fact that Abraham's sending him back to Aram Naharaim, taking that much trouble, uh, means that it's very important to Abraham, and so Eliezer wants to make sure that he understands because he's been living there and he's Abraham's servant. He understands the kind of life, the kind of values the family has. And it seems to me like he wants to make sure that the woman he finds for Isaac shares those values. And this is going above and beyond. There's just no question about it. You know, the it turns out, of course, that Rebecca is the one, and Rebecca does say this. And the here's the thought, right? And I think this is actually something to meditate on, and actually is a profound thought, that the idea of being kind to strangers, because this Eliezer here is a stranger, and how we tend to treat strangers, and sort of bask in our own comfort, and don't want to take the chance or go out of our comfort zone in welcoming strangers. And this is a welcome with a capital W.
Hmm.
And how acting in loving ways, and this term loving kindness really sort of defines the nature of that kind of love, is really a very moving, and it carries with it a lot of meaning and a lot of thought as to what's involved. And here they're giving a specific example of this. You know, I mean, even giving him water, even here she is busy going to draw water, I shouldn't imagine was one of the most fun chores in the daily chores that people had. And he's asking her to take time out of doing this chore to do something for him, which doesn't appear to have any benefit for her. Okay, not the way she might look at it at that time. And then also, she of herself has this compassion for the animals.
And it's not so easy to water 10 camels.
I was going to say, they might have quite a thirst.
Yeah.
Uva Eda, and through this I will know. Lashon Hina, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, he's saying it is a prayer, and in some sense a supplication, or daliba, let me know. In other words, he's supplicating God, he's asking God to say, let me know through this.
Through her.
Yeah, through her. In other words, through this act, through her performing this act. Ki asita chesed, that you have performed an act of love, im tihia, if she is mi mishpachto, from his family. So this request, of course, he doesn't know that this particular person might be from his family, and he did ask that Eliezer go back to his family. So the hugenet law is appropriate for him. Eda, I will then know, ki asita chesed, that in fact you have performed an act of love. So it sounds to me as if it's going beyond what her simply doing what he asked. In other words, he would then find out after she did this how she was related, who her family was, and in fact, if she was from the family of Nahor, in other words, Abraham's family, he would know that this truly was an act of love on God's part. So it wasn't enough that she give him water to drink and that she watered the camels. She also had to be from Abraham's family.
Rabbi?
Yes, Jocelyn.
So Ada, is from I will know, right?
I would think from I think the root is yada, yud dalet ayin.
Yeah.
But Ada is also a witness, is it not?
Yes, that's true. And maybe, but that is a different, I think that could be a different root. But on the other hand,
No.
it does have an ayin. And as a matter of fact, maybe it is that you gain knowledge, you corroborate things through witnesses. So there may be, in fact, a connection. Okay. So I think that is the root. So the word aid, I think, could well be related to the word yada, because that's how you gain knowledge regarding a case.
Well, they're definitely different set of letters.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Let's go on. Verse 15. Vayhi hu terem. This is amazing again in terms of the narrative, right? Vayhi, and so it was. Hu terem chila ledaber. He had barely finished speaking. Vehine Rivka yotzet, and behold, Rebecca comes out. Asher Yulda leVetuel, who had been born to Betuel ben Milcah, the son of Milcah. Betuel was the son of Milcah. Eshet Nachor, who was the wife of Nachor. So, in other words, she was Nachor's granddaughter. Achi Avraham. Nahor, of course, was the brother to Abraham. The Chada and her pitcher, her jug, al shichma, on her shoulder. Okay, nothing there.
That's different than the modern Hebrew word for shoulder.
Yes, Oref.
No, Kedafayim, something like that.
The Fafayim.
Tzafayim, yeah, that Ktefayim. Yeah, shoulders. So it may be a different part of the shoulder. So I'd have to think. I mean, Oref is also like the back of the neck, that particular area. So maybe there are different areas of that region that are defined. Yeah. Okay. But by the way, lekatef as a verb also means to shoulder. Okay, as a verb. Ara, and the maiden, Tovat Mareh, beautiful of vision, Me'od, was very beautiful. Betula, a virgin, Ve'ish lo Yeda'a, no man had known her, had experienced her. So clearly there's a circumlocution here, and it could be that Rashi will pick that up. But Tered Ha'aina, and she went down to the well, Vatamale Vada Vata'al, she filled her pitcher and came back up. So here we go. Betula. Mimakom betulim. So the point is she was a virgin in the place of virginity. In other words, we're talking now about her physical, her body parts. Ve'ish lo yad'a, no man had experienced her. In other words, she had not engaged, obviously. And here we go, shelo kedarka, which means in the not regular way. Meaning, literally, if you want me to be specific, anally. And why is he saying this? Lefi benot hanochrim, because the daughters of the nochrim, meaning basically here it means stranger, but it means pagans. Hayu mishamrot makom betulehem, they would protect the place of their virginity. Umafkirot, but they made available. They were not careful. Mipatzman, they did not prevent themselves, mimakom acher, from a different place. He'id alzo shenikia mikol. And with regards to this verse gives witness, right? There's the aid, right? Gives testimony, testifies. Zo shen alzo, concerning her, shenikia mikol, that she was clean of everything. That's how we know that she had not been intimate with any other person.
She was also very young, right? Was she about 15 or 14?
Okay, so no, there's some who say like she was 5 years old or something, or 4 years old. That is based on a genealogy, on a chronology that you find in relationship to Isaac and the fact that we read about Rebecca's birth right after the Akedah, and all this takes place after the Akedah. Now, what is so cool, and this is a widely known interpretation. So there was a time when I was studying this with some people and came across, I had an edition, I still have this edition of Rashi. It's Lauren, you may have seen it because it's what I used for the Rashi group. I used to print out the pages from that particular edition. It had a Yiddish translation of the Rashi as well, but it had a bunch of other commentaries too. It's a really lovely edition, and maybe I'll make some copies of it and put it up for everyone to see. And they had, I think, there was a commentary along with the Rashi and stuff, something like Dat Skenim Mibahalei Tosafot. That was the name of this commentary, and they actually figure out and disagree that she was that she was like 5 years old, and they show that you don't have to read the chronology in that particular way. So she was a reasonable, she may have been, I don't know, 16, something like that. I mean, remember, maybe 100 or 200 years ago, it was quite common for women to be married at the age of 12. This was not unusual, right? Because women become capable of conception at that age. So And they do
No,
tend to
it's after 10.
say that again.
It's after 10, just wanna, in
Oh,
case you're not.
yes, I see the time. Yes, you're not talking about age. Okay, we'll stop here. I'm going
Yeah.
to stop the share, and I will also say farewell to our Facebook friends. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. To be continued.